Hi guys, welcome back to another game review. Today I'll be talking about a game that I do believe holds a title, and I do agree with the title as one of the greatest games to of all time, probably. Um, for this one, I am talking about, of course, Bioshock 1. Bioshock 1 was a game that came out back in 2007. August 21st of 2007. Came out for the Xbox 360. Pretty much every platform it came out, mainly back then: Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Windows. It was created by the 2K teams of Australia, Boston, and then just outright published by themselves. It's pretty cool usually when they can always publish their own games. Um, this game does hold a pretty high place in gaming. It was, to many people, the first game to present a video game being art rather than it just being like, oh, Call of Duty or something, a shooter, or something silly, or get like kids things or something like that. It was the game that really presented itself as gaming can be an art form, and a very impressive art form at that. um I This is gonna be one of the few times that I do have a pretty fond story. Fond in a it's fond now, not fond back then. A fond story of it, of Bioshock 1 when it came out. So back in the day, a little bit of lore about me. Back in around that time too, 2007, the Wii had come out. I had gotten the Wii for my birthday alongside Guitar Hero. It was awesome. I loved it. I'll talk about Guitar Hero at some point. That's way down the line. I don't really play those kind of things anymore, so I will do a game review of Guitar Hero at some point, but just not in a bit. Um, but I got that. I played the heck out of my Guitar Hero. I played the heck out of my Wii. Really enjoyed it. And then I got to the point where my older brother was like, "Hey, the Wii's all fun and everything, but you do want to play some more interesting games, probably." And unfortunately, the Wii doesn't have more interesting games. It, of course, did. But what he was kind of referring to was having more like mature games or something, or more games that are not for kids or anything. So my brother convinced me to go trade in my Wii along with my Guitar Hero guitar, trade in everything, go to a GameStop. They were better back then than they are now. And pick up an Xbox 360 at the time. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to play better games. And so I was all over the idea. And I think it was a good choice. I actually think it was a really smart choice. Um, it only skyrocketed my love for gaming even further, because until then, I think I was mainly playing just mostly kids' games. This was when my brother showed me games that technically were not made for me because I was a kid. But you know what? I appreciate it. I love games now. Games are a very important thing to me. But I got my Xbox 360. Now, granted, because GameStop was still GameStop back then, they did offer me a way low ball for a pretty much new console and Guitar Hero setup, which would normally rack you probably like $300 to $400, $500 back then. Those were expensive things. And I got like 280 or 320, which is really good right now. If you could get that kind of stuff, if you could like trade in a PS5 and get like 400 of your $500 back, it would be a really good trade in for the most part. It would suck, but it would be better than what they'd probably give you 80 bucks right now. 80 whole ducks. That's it, which would probably be worth more. Um, but I got a 360, and I had to pick a game to go along with it with one controller. They also sold me a 360 with no hard drive, which I didn't know the ramifications of. So no hard drive and no memory card. They don't make memory cards anymore. Technically they do, because they're like the little SD cards, and hard drives things are memory cards at this point in a way, but those back then, little memory cards, you pops in the memory card slot and everything. They don't make those anymore. I didn't have any. No memory card, no hard drive. So I got Bioshock 1. It looked cool. Underwater city and shooting and stuff. That's cool. You know? I didn't know what that would do to me, and it's been the best decision I've made in my childhood for gaming quite a while. other than Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer is the best thing ever to me. But anyway, brought home Bioshock, started playing it. Got like 4 hours in. You know, I was a kid. It was probably close to late. Had to go to sleep. Woke up. Xbox had turned off. Realized I got to start all over again. I had no way of saving. No memory card. No hard drive. Nothing. So I played through Bioshock about like 7 or 8 times in the beginning of the game, probably up to 4 to 5 hours per pop, and then I couldn't save it. I tried to leave the Xbox on. You know, it's a terrible idea. Xboxes were notorious overheaters. I did get a red ring on that 360 at some point. But that's just my fun story I like to talk about when it comes to Bioshock, is me just having the worst time having to restart it. I knew the first code to a door by memory by that point because I had played it so much. Bioshock, let me actually get into the game now. I want to get that cool story out of the way. Sorry about that. Skip to, I'll try to find a timestamp for this point. Uh, Bioshock is, of course, a first person shooter set in an underwater city called Rapture. The idea is that this like philanthropist, extreme wealthy man despised, I should say, the city, the any of the cities on land. So much so that he took a lot of his money, invited some really wealthy people, and they made a city underwater. The city idea was that it was going to have none of the restrictions that a normal city would have, no moral restrictions, no monetary restrictions. You come here, you could do anything you wanted pretty much, except for like murder, like no outright murder. Anything other than that, pretty much everything goes. So, you plays a character that was just kind of dumped into Rapture. They go into it via a lighthouse that's in the middle of the ocean. I, of course, won't talk too much about spoilers, of course. You know me, I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything, and the story is super important for this game. I won't tell you most of the story, but I will tell you that it has the biggest twist of gaming back then. It's still a pretty amazing twist, and I hope many of you who haven't played it yet take a chance at this game because it's exceptional. Um, Gameplay wise, I will talk about, of course. You have a plethora, I'm going to use that word for it, of guns to utilize. I want to say probably about 8 to 10 by the end. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but back then that was a lot for one game character to be holding on to himself. Those are a bunch of different guns. You get kind of the standards. You get a machine gun, a pistol. Your main thing is your wrench. That's the most iconic thing you might see from Bioshock, is that wrench that your first character holds onto. Um, but those are the main sources of protecting yourself, alongside with probably the most interesting aspect of this game, because all the shooters back then were trying to do, let's go high realism, come on, let's go, Modern Warfare 1 and all that back then, and or like Battlefield and such. A lot of these shooters were just trying to go for a realistic tone. Bioshock had what are called plasmids, which are powers. They make a crazy point at it too, because these plasmids were generated using genome augmentations and such. So they went into your genes to adjust your genes to where you have these powers. It's super cool. It's a really cool concept. It's maybe not so outlandish in nowadays times or anything, and nowadays video games have way crazier stuff, but back then having something that felt like not super out of this world as your main thing, that was so cool. It felt like actual future things, even though this game takes place in like the 1950s. So you have a bunch of different powers. You got things. You got your standard burn people, uh, ice things, telepath things. Um, you can uh, what are the other ones? I mean, I think you can take control of people, take control of cameras. That doesn't sound like something you'd recommend for kids, and it's not. It's not something you'd recommend for kids. But all of that. They're super fun. You get what's called Atom, which helps you get your plasmids. Eve is another tool you utilize to replenish what you the bar that uses that is used for your plasmids when you use them. Just think Adam and Eve, the whole thing. Adam, the funny thing about Adam is it's primarily gotten by what are called little sisters. Now, I'm not going to talk about how they are created very much. Only that by lore standards, there's a slug that they utilize for plasma for atom producing. They tested a lot of people, different people. They found out that little girls were the most susceptible to these slugs. They had the easiest time with them. Don't ask me why they chose that. I think it's the whole you want to protect children. Maybe little girls feel more needed to be protected, and so they chose that. I'm assuming that's the thing. So, to help in story with these little sisters, so they weren't just taken by any Joe Smo, they introduced Big Daddies into the mix, which are the icon of the game. I talked about the wrench and everything, but the real big icon of the game are the Big Daddies. This big guy in a diver suit, huge helmet, big drill arm. It's honestly one of the best character designs I've ever seen in a video game. They hold a very high place in my heart. In fact, he's hiding right down here. I know you can't see him behind the Skyrim helmet very well. Let's get him out here to show you. Please don't be having anything leaning on it. Oh, there's one thing, but in that bed. There you go. I hope the thing captures this because this would be a perfect what's it called? A perfect thumbnail for this video. This is a Big Daddy in tiny little Pop Funko form. I'm pretty sure. The big helmet and everything. This is the most iconic thing in the video game. Is this guy right here? He protects little sisters. There's a couple kinds you'll find throughout the game, but this one's the one you'll see mainly. Gonna hang out with me. Actually, kind of want him more foregroundy than usual. He's pretty cool. But Big Daddies are your tough enemies, your tanks, your bosses of the game. Pretty much, every enemy has a health bar above their head when you attack them. But if the game functioned normal, like a normal game in a sense, they would have health bars on the bottom. Like a Dark Souls boss. So other than that, what happens? You take out a Big Daddy. You can do one of two things. You'll learn story wise how you can, but you can harvest or rescue little sisters. Harvesting gets you way more atom to utilize for plasmids to get new plasmids or upgrade the current ones, but in turn it kills a little sister like outright. Rescuing gets you like a fair bit less atom, but of course rescues a little sister. This game does an interesting thing. Many games do it nowadays to an extent. You have two different kinds of endings. You actually get three times the endings in this game. Whether you do really good in the sense of rescuing all the little sisters, do really bad as in harvesting all the little sisters, and then there's like a little gray ending in the middle in case you do harvest or rescue either or kind of thing. I'll tell you now, I've never played a playthrough where I harvest any little sisters ever. I can't bring myself to do it. Most of the community says the exact same thing where they cannot harvest little sisters because they're free. They just it's so evil feeling. People always ask, why don't you just be mean? I don't want to be mean. I feel bad about me being to anything in games, even if they're not real. But that's the primary thing of Atom, how you get it and what it performs and what it does for you. There's a lot of locations. By the way, Rapture is by far one of the most interesting cities to play in a video game ever. There's very few things that top underwater city in the 50s. That's so cool. The atmosphere is impeccable. A lot of the places, there are a couple places in the game that don't feel as strong as some of the others. For me, it was always Arcadia, which is a place you'll find later into the game. It's kind of an underwater forest. It sounds super cool, but it's just a forest, like a regular forest that they've created to produce oxygen for the city. But the part itself that I think lacks. It's not the actual design of anything. It's just what you do in that part that's annoying to me. So don't take that. Design wise, Arcadia is still top notch along with the rest of the game. Your main enemies, I talked about your big daddies as your big bosses and everything, but you do have main enemies, which are called splicers in this game. Pretty much, these are people that have so augmented their genes so heavily with Adam that like they're pretty much drug addicts in a way. I know it sounds terrible to say that you're going around killing drug addicts or something like that, but they're hostile people that can utilize plasmids sometimes, but mainly they're just trying to get like your atom like in a way. So you got different kinds of splicers throughout the game. You got like your standard splicer shoots guns. You got people that come at you, try to hit you more often with melee weapons. Spider splicers, which are by far the creepiest little bastards on the planet. They can jump on walls, hang from walls via hooks and everything. They're so creepy. I love them. They're fun to play. Houdini splicers, which just vanish on you. They can teleport and everything. Um, a whole mess of them and everything. So, quite the rogues gallery to fight against and everything for this guy. Um, but a lot of the game is kind of main focus on story stuff. Gameplay wise, it feels amazing. I love playing through it. I I did think about trying on the channel back then, and I still might at some point. I'll see. I'm kind of really focusing on the whole playing with friends for quite a long time because I think that's the easiest way for me to play video games. So, but you might see it on the channel at some point. I'll give you that. Maybe I'll become more of a lore channel or more of a like info channel rather than gameplay. I'm not going to hate it that much or anything to do that, but I could bring friends online doing that kind of stuff too. Um, there's not much more to talk about, I would say, in this for if I was not trying to spoil it. So for now, I'm gonna end it here for this review. By the way, I do give it a 10 out of 10. It is one of those games I will be giving a 10 out of 10 for me as well. Beautiful, well done, makes a fantastic world. I will be talking about the other two, of course. Yes, the other two. I was like, is there ever a spinoff? No. So that'll be it for this one. As always, I like to ask you to like and comment. What did you guys think about Bioshock when you first played it? Um, if you haven't played it, of course, did I encourage you? Did I discourage you? I hope I encouraged you a little bit. It is one of the greatest games ever made. That's a pretty high consensus of that. Any kind of for comment wise, if you want to talk about what's your favorite plasmid, what's your favorite weapon? Did you like the Big Daddies or did you harvest little sisters and you're not a great person? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's a video game. Be however you like in them. Um, but as always, I like to ask you to subscribe if you do think you're wonderful. If you don't, I still think you're wonderful. So it's completely up to you. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.